Hello and welcome to another insightful episode of the weekly business roundup. With me, your host, Wadulo Mark Arnold, bringing you the exclusive stories that made news in the business sphere, locally and internationally. The highlights tonight are: Supreme Court dismisses with costs the Bank of Uganda lawsuit filed against Sudhir Ruparelia. MV Pamba finally back on the Lake Victoria waters. And fruit farmers and processors in central Uganda are seeking for government intervention in order to rescue their struggling enterprises. For these and more, stay tuned. It's time for business. The joint venture partners in Uganda's oil and gas sector, CNOOC and Total Energies, made their final investment decision on the 1st of this month. Now the milestone launches the major contraction and construction works in the Albertine region. Let's take a look. As Uganda crosses into the contracting phase of its oil and gas projects, the East African crude oil pipeline is showing more potential to serve oil and gas initiatives in the entire East African region.
I think our Tanzanian brothers are also looking for petroleum in the Lake Eyasi area or something like that. I heard something like that. There's also likely to be petroleum in Burundi. So this East African crude pipeline may end up being a nucleus for the East African crude effort.
Final investment decision means that all preparations for the production phase by implementing stakeholders have been made, which include call for tenders, placing of contracts, establishing infrastructure, environmental and social impact assessments, among others.
This is the culmination of the hard work and investment that has been made by both the governments, the oil companies, private sector, and the host communities.
Government of Uganda has put optimal focus on local content to spur domestic growth, which was evidenced by the passing of the local content policy in 2018.
So we need to be prepared to partake of the chances that the industry is bringing. Obviously, Uganda's tax base will expand. Tanzania's tax base will equally expand.
The need to meet global demand for oil is pushing Total and CNOOC to meet the agreed local targets.
We need to meet the world's demand for oil. The current spike in global oil price demonstrates that lack of investment in this sector could have some consequences for customers. We need to launch new developments like the one we are launching today.
On 11th April 2021, Uganda and Tanzania signed a shareholders agreement that was to see both states partner in exporting crude oil to the global market.
We recall that together with Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, you directed the parties involved to quickly finalize pending matters for the formation of the ECOP company and attainment of the final investment decision for the ECOP project. We are now pleased to see that the parties to the ECOP project have complied with that directive.
The resources to be developed in the Albertine Graben encompass the Tilenga project operated by Total Energies with 56.6%, and the Kingfisher project operated by CNOOC with 28.33%, both in a joint venture partnership with UNOC. Wadulo Mark Arnold, UBC News, in Kampala. The United Arab Emirates has committed to collaborate with Uganda in the trade and business sphere for mutual benefits. Now, this was disclosed at a meeting by Uganda's government and business delegation while on a working visit in the Ras Al Khaimah, the largest city in the capital of the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. Dennis Sigor has more on this story.
Uganda is strategizing on how to tap into the immense business opportunities with the United Arab Emirates and the Middle East.
We need to trade, and we have been trading already, and we think that we can continue, and that's why we have invited Ugandan businesses and the government to interact with UAE businesses, government and partners.
The Dubai Expo 2020 and side events have so far provided the best platform for Ugandan trade and business delegations to woo the potential business partners.
I thought it was important to highlight the leather value chain in Uganda as a value chain that is nascent but growing with international standards. We are exporting to Italy, we're exporting to Greece, we're exporting to a number of leather producing countries. A lot of what we export is at the wet blue variety, which means it's semi-processed, and therefore there is a possibility of going further.
By the way, our industry also only deals in narrow parts. We have other species like tilapia, catfish, but most of these other species are farmed.
Currently, Uganda's leading export to the UAE is gold. However, with the country's niche in agriculture, there is room for trade and exports growth, argues John Bosco Lwere from the Uganda Exports Promotion Board.
We have comparative advantages in these products, coffee, tea, and cocoa. So we believe that if we are able to speak to each other and come to an understanding, we can exploit this market opportunity.
The 2 weeks trade and investment roadshow organized by the Uganda Exports Promotion Board and coordinated by Uganda's embassy in Abu Dhabi is one of Uganda's strategic activities for the Dubai Expo 2020.
In terms of like personal and professional levels, the UAE is a very encouraging environment for businesses, and that's why we are here today. We are looking for very successful partnerships with Uganda businesses and looking for export businesses for our products to Uganda.
The remaining 7 weeks of the Expo is crucial for the country as it strives to tackle the existing trade imbalance and showcase its trade and business potential to the world. The Ugandan Trade and Business Delegation, currently on a roadshow in the United Arab Emirates, have had candid discussions on boosting trade ties with their counterparts from Ras Al Khaimah Chamber of Commerce. Ras Al Khaimah is the largest city and capital of the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, UAE, and also the 6th largest city after Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Al Ain, and Ajman.
We don't need to sell only. There are manufacturing plants, specifically in Ras Al Khaimah, where we can join forces to pack the fruits and vegetables and sell together, partner, okay, instead of just selling, buying, because if we make money, that money can disappear at any time. But partnership, connecting to people, knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer is at the heart of business and economic development nowadays.
We also have the Hass variety that our farmers are now engaged into growing, and it's coming on board. So we are able to supply you, depending on the size and the shape of the avocado that you might want, and in the quantities you have. Now, Uganda, next to South Africa, almost has 4 seasons of avocado.
A popular tourist attraction located about 100 kilometers from Dubai, RAK is also known for the commercial processing of dates, a fruit with unrivaled health benefits.
Some studies saying that whatever the nutrition is available in the universe, it's all available in dates. Okay. Yeah, it is the number one. Actually, some studies are saying we have the even good proof with us. You know, all the history. You know, the people are eating dates and walkovers, so it is the good evidence for that.
It's on this backdrop that the Ugandan delegation added a tour of the Khat dates processing factory in its broad itinerary. According to the management, Uganda is one of the importers of their finished products.
Well, I see a lot of commitment to quality standards. There is voluntary uptake of standards. As opposed to us standard bodies whipping people to follow standards, I see voluntary compliance, a voluntary commitment because they believe they must meet the market requirements, and that's the message we need to give to our private sector, that standard is good for business, is not good for the standards body. So you must voluntarily adopt standards to be able to compete on the market worldwide.
We came here to show to the international world what we do, and I'm sure this visit and our later visits to such kind of countries where we can sell our products will be very successful. We are gearing up to that. People appreciated our presentations, and these presentations were made with a lot of effort. And I think we are in the right direction.
The working visit by the Ugandan businesses and government is a strategic move of marketing Uganda to the UAE during post-pandemic recovery.
If we need to explore what we could do together, it is much viable or better for us to think ahead and think out of the box. What can be done in this region? What are the success stories that we can showcase from both countries? What can be done? How can we connect? And through whom can we connect?
The roadshow in the United Arab Emirates seeks to position Uganda as the best investment destination, as well as create market for the locally manufactured products. Dennis Igor for UBC News in Sharjah.
Supreme Court dismissed with costs the lawsuit filed by Bank of Uganda against Sudhir Ruparelia and Mere Investments Limited. In the lower court, Bank of Uganda was ordered to pay costs in the lawsuit it filed against Sudhir Ruparelia and Mere Investments. Let's take a look.
The Supreme Court has dismissed with cost the case filed by Bank of Uganda against business mogul Sudhir Ruparelia and Mere Investments Limited. Court upheld the lower court decision and the orders made against the applicant.
Like we observed before, the Blasio decision dealt with the issue of parties consenting to withdraw their actions, but at the same time set general principles of application. If an appellant chose to withdraw his appeal, the effect is that the decision of the lower court remains standing. Consequently, the Court of Appeal decision and the orders it made from which the instant appeal emanates stand.
Sudhir Ruparelia now remains the owner of Crane Bank Limited as a company. However, not the bank itself.
Before we take leave of this matter, we note that the Court of Appeal made orders to the effect that the receivership of the appellant had ended on 20th July 2018. The implication of that finding, in our view, is that the management of the appellant reverted to the shareholders after the 20th of January 2018. In the result, this appeal is dismissed with costs to the respondent in the terms found by the lower courts.
Lawyers representing Sudhir Ruparelia were pleased with court's ruling.
First of all, he lost his bank, which actually should never have lost it because of the mistakes of officers of the Bank of Uganda. And he has had to endure the 5 years gauntlet of fighting this massive case.
Bank of Uganda has stolen money in the name of Crane Bank. Even the Auditor General has made a report to say out of 476 billion they claim they put in Crane Bank, 290 billion is unaccounted. It never reached Crane Bank. And even the other money which they say it's reached Crane Bank, it's not accounted for.
The presiding justices in this matter include Opio Awel, Faith Monda, Lilian Tebatemwa Ekirikubinza, Ezekiel Muhanguzi, and Justice Person Knight twice. Bank of Uganda was represented by Counsel Margaret Chisule, Yita Simulindwa, Josephine Sumbe, and Joseph Luboyera, who ran out of our cameras after court. The ruling was read by the Supreme Court Registrar, Mary Babirye, Deborah Namamonde, Nantongo Rebecca, UBC News.
After being docked for nearly 18 years, one of Uganda's oldest maritime cargo vessels, MV Pamba, was recommissioned this week at Port Bell, Luzira. Now the vessel will be operated by Mango Tree Group Limited with oversight by Uganda Railway Corporation under supervision of the Ministry of Works and Transport. Since being grounded in 2005 for lacking international maritime standards, MV Pamba underwent rehabilitation and is now back on the waters. The rehabilitation of MV Pamba is estimated to have cost Mango Tree Group Limited 28.6 billion Ugandan shillings, with the capacity to carry 22 wagons worth 10,000 tons of cargo. The recommissioned vessel will be plying across Port Bell, Jinja Port, Port Mwanza and Port Kisumu, doing an average of 12 voyages per month.
Water transport is one of the cheapest and safest mode of transport, but which we have not fully exploited. Our Lake Victoria is just here for us. It's there. Fresh waters, God gave us. But we are not yet fully utilizing its potential.
On 18th May 2020, a memorandum of understanding was signed between government and Mango Tree Group Limited to carry out rehabilitation, upgrade, class insure and commission the vessel at its own cost.
We are looking forward to working with the Ugandan government in investing more on transport for the benefit of the people around the Lake Victoria Basin.
As the ministry builds an efficient transport sector, Ugandans need to safeguard all established infrastructure.
A lot of money has been invested. You have heard the MD talking about how much money has been invested, how much money has been borrowed. Please stop the irresponsible acts of vandalizing these facilities.
The business community is optimistic on using the cheaper water transport tariffs that will apply to the vessel.
Even if we are thinking about adding value in the country, but to export 10 million bags of coffee, just as an example, there is no way we can cope without Uganda Railways Corporation and without utilizing these vessels.
We in private sector, when the infrastructure is right, then it leaves us in the business community to use that infrastructure to create more jobs, to make more money, and to make our country very habitable.
MV Pamba is a vessel owned by government and operated by URC on Lake Victoria. Through the MOU, Mango Tree Group Limited was licensed to run its operations till it recovers all its costs. Wadulo Makanold, UBC News, in Port Bell, Luzira. Fruit farmers and processors in Luwero and Nakasongola districts are seeking for government intervention in order to rescue their struggling enterprises. Pineapples, the main cash crop in the two districts, are rotting away in the farms due to low demand or facing expiry in the processing factory in Kakoge, Nakasongola district.
The rotting pineapples in this vast farm in Kamira Town Council in Luwero district is discouraging and distressing for Nasimbwa Betty, a commercial farmer. Her investment is wasting away with no sign of large-scale buyers.
The pineapples are getting spoiled completely in the farm and I am losing hope. I had expectations of reaping big this year after being assured of ready market by Kike Fruits Factory. They bought all my fruits last year, so invested more with high expectations, but the market is gone.
She's not the only one in the area grappling with a huge stock of ripening fruits. These farmers depend on commercial farming of pineapples to make ends meet.
That's where I call upon people who are concerned. Let this law do their work. Let this law be implemented. Let these people who are concerned be questioned why things are not moving. I said people are crying, people are investing in their money, people are making losses. Why?
We planted pineapples, but it seems we are going to make big losses. As you can see, all our fruits are rotting in the farm.
A few kilometers away from these farms is the ultra-modern, multi-million-dollar Kike Tropical Fruits Processing Factory. Commissioned in 2020, the plant, with mangoes, pineapples and passion fruits production lines, raised the farmers' hopes of business sustainability by guaranteeing a ready market.
Incidentally, most of the stock you see here is our pineapple from our Luwero farmers. We have been with this stock for 8 months plus. Why? We have not succeeded really selling the pineapple puree or pineapple pulp locally. We have some hopes and some positive response out of Uganda, but because of the pandemic, still it is slower than expected. But still the question remains, why should we focus on the outside when we have the influx coming here? It's like we are giving a fraction, just a small fraction, say 10%, we take it out and the 90% comes from outside.
But the positive impact to the farmers was short-lived. The factory, which produces puree, concentrates and single-strength juice, only managed to support their enterprise for a season. The fruit processors and the farmers have one thing in common. They both have stock, but unfortunately, they lack the market. For local investors such as Francis Mugabe, the proprietor of Kiko Tropical Fruits, their humble appeal is for government to walk the talk in the implementation of the Bubu policy, whose mission is to enhance industrialization by boosting local content and import substitution.
So we need policymakers not to let us stock these pineapples. They should also come on board. They should support. They are the ones who are advocating for buy Uganda, build Uganda, substitute this. But we need to see it. Why are we still seeing the same thing come inside? Is it cheaper? Is it of a better quality? Is it of a better standard? But everybody will testify Ugandan pineapple as a fruit is the best. So why can't it be lifted and used in those applications that they are still importing them for?
After we have added value to the commodity, we surely need to have market. So the entire value chain must be complete. If it is not complete, then we are not in business. We must add value to the crop, produce the pulp, but then the pulp must find market outside there. So the biggest challenge we are having is that once we procure them so many tons of pineapple, so many tons of mangoes like you saw, passion fruits, we are finding a challenge of competing with incoming non-fruit materials, which the policies, I think, in the country, still permit,
Uganda industrialization agenda is anchored on value addition of agricultural products. It is therefore paramount that local content is wholly embraced. Dennis Igoa for UBC News.
Civil society organizations have spoken out on the growing inequality gaps amongst Ugandans, warning that this could lead to detrimental social, economic and political crises if not checked. They now recommend tightening anti-inequality policies on public services, tax and labor rights as mitigation to the potential threat. Uganda's poor performance in the 2021 Commitment to Reducing Inequality Index report, CRI, has prompted civil society to charge government to enable more inclusive policy frameworks.
That the poor are becoming poorer and the rich are becoming richer. So the distribution of resources is becoming a problem. And as my colleagues have pointed out, this report considers the key pillars of assessing a country's fight against inequality: public service spending, taxation, labor rights.
According to the report, Uganda has been ranked 143rd out of 158 countries on a global scale, 38 out of 48 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and 6th in East Africa, only ahead of Burundi and South Sudan.
So Uganda's poor performance can be exacerbated by the impact of COVID-19. And so this has pushed many millions of Ugandans into poverty and drastically increased the inequality gap. According to the World Bank, it is projected that 52 million people in sub-Saharan Africa were projected to be pushed into extreme poverty between 2019 and 2021, with 2.6 million being Ugandans.
Limited access to essential public services like healthcare, a tight fiscal space, and gender inequality in a large informal sector are the major push factors of inequality.
Uganda as a country provides for maternity leave, but that is only in the formal sector. What happens in the informal sector? If you have a small baby of 1 week and you're in the informal sector, it is not unusual for you to lose your job.
We know there's an NHIS policy that is in place that's meant to help increase health coverage. This is something that we would want government to come up and expedite and have this put in place.
The CRI tool ranks governments across the world on their commitment by measuring government policies and actions in areas of public services, taxation, and workers' rights. Wadulo Makanold, QBC News. On the continental scene, Ghana is the world's second biggest cocoa exporter, but outdated plantations, pathogens in trees and plants, as well as the ever-growing drought are driving cocoa farmers into desperation. Now, sustainable and effective farming methods could be a game changer in the fight against climate change and help combat the rise in poverty.
Adama Fuseni is checking the condition of his cocoa trees and removing excess shoots. He wants to get his plantation into shape. Important visitors are on their way. A scientist from the State Cocoa Authority has said he'll be coming by today.
Ayoko, Mr. Adama. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
With just a few glances, Amos Kojo Kwai sees what Adama Fuseni has done wrong. For starters, this fruit. A squirrel nibbled on it. The farmer should have chopped it off immediately. Now ants have eaten the cocoa beans and are threatening the other fruits too. And there's another problem.
You see this tree? This tree takes a lot of water from the soil. Assuming you cut through the root of it, you see a lot of water coming out of it. You see that during the dry season, although it doesn't shed its leaves, which means it's very good to provide shade for the cocoa during the dry season. But on the other hand, because it takes too much water from the soil, it is competing for water and nutrients with the cocoa plants.
The fact that the soil's water balance could be a problem is new to Adama Fuseni. He only thought about the shade his cocoa plants needed. He learned about shade from his father, Orlando Osmanu, a cocoa farmer who rehabilitated his farm with the support of a Dutch NGO. When he saw his father's farm taking off, he decided to quit his job as a teacher.
Now I can see a lot of improvement. Actually, my father is able to get food to feed the family, and then some of the food that he sells, he's able to get money from there, some small income to support the family in one way or the other. And now I'm even attracted to go into food farming.
It usually takes a young cocoa plant 7 years to bear fruit. In order to bridge the time until the first harvest, Adama Fuseni initially bought 3 cows. Today, he has a herd of 17 animals.
If you don't learn from this project, I don't know what you will learn in life, honestly. So honestly, you're coming here, but it's not just to see and move on. What have you learned? What have you learned from the farm? What enterprises, because we have about 8 to 9 enterprises here at the farm. What can you take away that you say, okay, even if in my small garden of an acre or 2, I can now do this. The king is doing coffee on an acre, I can do that. Yeah? The king is doing vegetables on an acre, I can do this. It's not about you don't have to have chunks of land to be successful in agriculture. It's a matter of utilizing what you have. Whether if you're a small-scale farmer or a large-scale farmer. So the young people of Uganda, particularly the young people of Toro Kingdom, it's not about just asking. It's about putting something in. Have a work plan. Have a work plan, stick to it, commit to it,
do what you can manage, other people will follow on board.
As the 6-month-long 2020 Dubai Expo comes to an end, we'll share with you some sights and sounds in the Expo's vicinity with a glimpse into Uganda's showcases. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Weekly Business Roundup. Catch us every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold, and from the team, we must say good night.
It's time to teach. Schools are open. In these days of COVID-19, teachers are not only giving knowledge, but protecting themselves and their students from the virus. As a teacher, you must ensure that students follow the set SOPs of always maintaining a distance of 2 meters from others in classrooms, dormitories, entertainment halls, school vans and playgrounds, wearing a washed and clean mask every day that covers their mouths and noses, and regularly washing their hands with soap and water. In addition to that, you must counsel students about stigma related to COVID-19 and discourage them from violence. Any violence against students from classmates, teachers or parents should be reported immediately to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Ensuring everyone's safety is key, so make sure students are out of class by the official closing time. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
Our Ugandan story isn't a new one. It's not about where we come from. It's about what can be accomplished when we're working, living, and growing together.